Every empire begins with the same conviction that it is different, stronger, wiser, immune to the mistakes that destroyed the civilizations that came before it. Yet history is merciless toward this belief, because when an empire begins to decline, it is not the armies, or the borders, or even the leaders that fail first. It is the currency, and before that currency dies, it flashes warning settle at first, unmistakable letter signals that repeat across centuries with an eerie precision. Rome flashed them as silver vanished from its denizens. Spain flashed them as its gold-filled treasury collapsed under impossible debt. The British Empire flashed them as the pound surrendered its global crown, and Weimar Germany flashed them all in rapid succession, accelerating collapse at a pace the world had never seen. Those same 5 signals are appearing again today. 3 are already blinking, quietly shaping the future while most people go about their lives unaware. To understand where we're heading, you must first see how empires fall. Signal number 1. Fiscal overstretch, when the empire outgrows its wallet. Every decline begins with a simple imbalance. A government spending far more than it dares to collect. At first, the gap seems manageable, an investment in growth, a temporary necessity, a harmless deviation from discipline. But history shows that fiscal overstretch is never temporary. It is the quiet spark that ignites the entire collapse cycle. Rome learned this as its borders expanded faster than its treasury. To pay for endless legions, emperors shaved silver from the denarius until it became a hollow symbol of former strength. Spain followed the same path, drowning in war debts so massive that even ships filled with New World gold could not keep it solvent. And Britain, exhausted by 2 world wars, watched its financial supremacy fade as the pound became too weak to carry an empire held together only on paper. The modern version is more subtle, but far more dangerous. Trillion-dollar deficits have become routine, justified, normalized an addiction, disguised as strategy. Nations are not expanding into new frontiers. They are borrowing to maintain the illusion of stability. This signal has already been blinking for a decade. And once an empire outgrows its wallet, the pressure shifts from honest revenue to financial manipulation. But fiscal overstretch alone doesn't kill a currency. The second signal is far more destructive. Signal number 2, currency manipulation. When money stops being money, when an empire can no longer fund its promises honestly, it turns to the one tool it believes it still controls, its own currency. This is the moment the moral foundation cracks. Money stops being a store of value and becomes a political instrument reshaped, diluted, or redefined by time that no longer exists. Rome crossed this line when its leaders clipped coins, reducing silver content until the denarius became an empty gesture of past glory. Weimar Germany crossed it when printing presses ran day and night, flooding the nation with paper that lost value faster than people could spend it. Britain crossed it when it quietly abandoned gold, severing the pound from the very anchor that once made it trusted across continents. Today, the same transformation happens in boardrooms and central banks. Trillions in stimulus enter the system with the push of a button. Liquidity becomes a substitute for productivity. Money supply grows far faster than the real economy it's supposed to represent. And once leaders learn that currency can be created without consequence, at first, discipline dies. The psychological line is crossed, and there is no return. This is where collapse accelerates. But manipulation leads directly to the most dangerous signal of all. Signal number 3. Foreign flight, when the world loses faith. Long before a currency collapses at home, it collapses abroad. Empires rarely notice this at first, because the shift is quiet, an invisible fracture that begins outside their borders. But to the world, watching from a distance, the pattern is unmistakable. Trust drains away long before Valdedas. Spain learned this the hard way. Its silver, once the pride of the empire, flooded Europe so rapidly that traders began to doubt its worth. The metal was real, but the confidence behind it was gone. Britain faced the same reckoning in the 1940s as nations rushed to redeem their pounds for gold, sensing the empire's strength fading beneath the surface. And Weimar Germany watched its mark weaken internationally years before the German people experienced true hyperinflation at home. Foreigners fled first because they had the freedom to move quickly. Today, The pattern repeats. Foreign buyers are quietly reducing their holdings of U.S. debt. Major nations are settling trade outside the dollar for the first time in generations. New financial blocs are forming not with declarations, but with transactions. These moves signal something deeper than strategy. They signal doubt. This third signal is already blinking and accelerating. But when foreign trust collapses, the empire turns inward, and the fourth signal emerges. Signal number 4. Internal panic. When citizens turn against their own currency, when trust collapses abroad, the empire still has time. But when trust collapses at home, the cycle accelerates beyond control. This is the moment when ordinary citizens, people who once believed in the system, begin protecting themselves from the system. And once that psychological shift takes root, no empire in history has reversed it. Rome felt this tremor as citizens quietly hoarded gold, refusing to accept debased coins except at a steep discount. In Spain, wealthy families moved savings to foreign banks, sensing the empire's finances crumbling behind official optimism. Germans, living through the slow-motion disaster of the Weimar Mark, rushed to buy anything with real utility: food tools, furniture, before their paper money evaporated overnight. Even in Britain, after the 1949 devaluation, citizens lined up to convert pounds while value still remained, fearing what tomorrow's headlines might bring. Today, the modern equivalents echo the same instinct. Bank runs disguised as withdrawal surges. A global surge in personal gold buying. Crypto markets acting as an escape valve for those who no longer trust traditional systems. Families watching their purchasing power shrink month by month, realizing something fundamental has shifted. This is the point of no return when collapse becomes visible, not in charts, but in behavior. All four lead to the final signal, the one no empire survives. Signal number 5. The forced reset. When the empire pulls the lever, no empire admits its currency has failed. Instead, it performs a reset, an engineered ending disguised as renewal. Rome attempted this when it introduced new coinage, promising restored value while quietly abandoning the old system. Spain followed the same script, defaulting again and again, each time presenting the reset as a necessary correction rather than a confession of collapse. Britain did it in 1949 when it devalued the pound overnight, reframing a global loss of confidence as a domestic policy decision. And Weimar Germany executed one of the most dramatic resets in history, replacing the worthless mark with an entirely new currency, wiping away the past with the stroke of a decree. Modern systems are preparing their own versions. Talk of central bank digital currencies, acceptance of permanent inflation, quiet proposals for restructuring unsustainable debt. None of these are labeled as collapse. All are described as modernization, stabilization, or reform. But the pattern is ancient. A currency doesn't die with a funeral. It disappears in a rebranding. This signal hasn't flashed yet, but the groundwork is being built, piece by piece, in plain sight. But what does this pattern mean for us today? The pattern is no longer theoretical. It is here, unfolding quietly, in the background of daily life. The first signal, fiscal overstretch, is undeniable. Record deficits have become routine, not exceptional, and nations are borrowing at a pace no genuine expansion can justify. The second signal, currency manipulation, is now standard practice. Liquidity injections, emergency measures, and financial engineering have replaced stability with constant intervention. And the third signal, foreign flight, is becoming increasingly visible as global holders trim their exposure, settle trade in alternative currencies, and prepare for what they sense coming. These are not abstract warnings. They are the same signals Rome ignored, Spain denied, Britain resisted, and Weimar only understood when it was too late. Every chart, every policy decision, every geopolitical shift points to the same conclusion. The cycle has already begun. We are mid-cycle, not at the beginning, and once the first three signals align, history shows that the final two tend to follow faster than anyone expects. So what comes next? History gives us the roadmap. History rarely speaks loudly. It whispers through patterns, through echoes, through the familiar mistakes that powerful nations insist are new. Empires do not fall because their enemies are stronger. They fall because they refuse to see the signals glowing inside their own walls. Rome ignored them. Spain dismissed them. Britain postponed them. Weimar could not outrun them, and today's world is no exception. The lesson is not doom, but clarity. Understanding these cycles is a form of strength. Seeing the pattern removes the surprise. It turns fear into preparation and confusion into awareness. The signals do not guarantee collapse, but they warn of a direction, one that accelerates when ignored and softens only when understood. Currencies don't collapse suddenly. They collapse slowly. Then all at once, the shift happens quietly, invisibly, until the moment it becomes undeniable. And in that moment, the societies that endure are the ones that paid attention before the world changed. Fade out, with the weight of that truth still hanging in the air.